Hey everyone, just a quick little test. Make sure you can hear me okay. We're going live in 1 minute and 24 seconds. Just say hello, can hear you. Oh, and let me fix the audio. We're going live in 1 minute and 24 seconds. Just say hello, can hear you. Oh, and let me fix the audio. And what do we got here? Oh, good, you can hear me. That's awesome. All right, we got. Hang on, I got a speaker going crazy. Let me unplug it. What was a good thing about technology? All right, we got 32 seconds. I see lots of people in the house. Russ is in the house. Tracy, Susan. I see we've got Hannah, Tom, and lots of regulars. Nils, good to see you. Peter, good to see you. We'll do all our shout outs at the end because we're getting ready for kickoff. Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. And hello everybody, welcome to episode number 51 of Live from Lockdown. Yep, 51 episodes. Can you believe it? It's hard to believe actually. 51 episodes, that's a lot. Last week we celebrated number 50. I hope you guys are doing well. This is one of those things I kind of thought was going to last for, a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, maybe 6 months tops. But here we are, a year later. We're still meeting here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And it's wonderful to have you guys here. Thank you for joining me. If this is your very first Live from Lockdown that you're here live, welcome. And introduce yourself in the chat. Everyone there is super friendly. And just say hi, this is your first time. And we're excited to have you join us. And then we've got our regulars, which is most of you. You guys have not missed a single episode. Maybe some of you have missed one or two. But welcome. Good to see you all here again. All our regulars. This is our hangout. This is our stomping ground is 1 p.m. Pacific time. Here we are on YouTube at photoshopCAFE doing Live from Lockdown. And here's to many more episodes ahead of us. I'll do a shout out at the end. We call it Afterglow. So after the lessons and all the learning, we'll do a little hangout. I'll answer some questions. I'll do shout outs, all the kind of fun stuff that we do. So essentially what we do, if you're new here, we gather around. Everyone jumps in the chat. It takes a couple of minutes for everyone to come in. I send out the newsletter to those who are on the list. If you're not on the list, go to photoshopcafe.com. And then under free training or free tutorials, you'll see an option that says live streams. Click on there, and then you'll see a sign up box on the newest live stream, and just sign up there. And then I'll send you a newsletter or an email when we go live, so you know. And we also post it live on social media to let people know, Facebook and Instagram at Photoshop Cafe. I said Facebook and Instagram. Twitter, don't forget Twitter. So all those places. So let me know, guys, are you a regular first time? Let us know in the chat. Did you come here from the newsletter? Did you come here from the Photoshop Cafe social media or YouTube? Let us know. And when I say newsletter, it's literally just a list for the live stream. And I send out an email and I say, okay, we're going live now. Come and join us. And this is the topic we're doing. So the topic we're going to be looking at this week, I think we're going to do a little bit of a continuation of last week, where we're going to look at some of the best tutorials, that we've been kind of doing with the Photoshop, and we're going to extend a little bit to Camera Raw. So we did part one last week where we really focused on Photoshop proper, which we'll do this week as well. But we're also going to be doing some stuff in Camera Raw. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a couple of lessons out of my Camera Raw Handbook. So these are, some good lessons that have proved to be very popular with people, and I hope you guys enjoy them. And of course, we've got some other things planned as well, as we're going to be doing a Fix My Photo segment. So why don't I go ahead and switch to the screen, and let me know, everybody, if you can see the screen right there. And I see lots of Klaus and Chris regulars. Good to see you guys. I'm just going to wait till I can see. Yep, I can see the screen before we proceed. And Bruce, of course, Bruce is an irregular. And, Bruce, there's juices and things for that can help you. And of course, Bruce, you'll see him there with the little blue wrench right by his name there. He is our moderator. So he's going to make sure that everything is running smoothly. If you've got any questions or any problems, Bruce will take care of you. Get your drink orders in, get your meal orders in quickly, because we are only doing this for an hour. And at the end of that, you better have enjoyed your drinks, because then it's over. All right, guys. So why don't I go in here and get us started. I'm going to start in Adobe Bridge. Just a little note. Let me just make this note really quick, because I know there's a couple of tutorials that I've done, and people have been like, well, I've been trying to do this in Camera Raw and it doesn't work. For example, the Super Size Me, the Super Resolution. Got a lot of people saying, hey, it doesn't work. It's not in my Camera Raw. It's not in my Photoshop. So there's more features available for Camera Raw. If you start with the image here inside of Bridge, and then essentially what you're going to do is, why don't we actually do what I'm going to work on? That'll make it more fun. If you go in here and then you right click, let me do that now. I'm going to right click here and open in Camera Raw. Now, when you open in Camera Raw, you can right click and then you'll see that enhance option. Some of those other options are going to be available here. If you go from Photoshop, Photoshop CC, of course, and newer, and you choose open as a filter inside of Camera Raw, you're not going to see this option. So if you're wondering where it is, you've got to open it from Bridge. And the reason for that is you can't resize or do anything that resizes a photo directly from Photoshop. You have to open the image from Bridge. Same thing with crop. The crop tool is not going to show, and neither is the straighten tool. You're not going to see these options. And also there's another little option down here that enables us to change the output resolution. All of those you have to go from Bridge. If you open them directly from Photoshop, those are not going to show. So that was just kind of a little tip to get started. And I hope that kind of helps. Just going to take a water. I was working late last night and get really dry when I work late, more than 12 hours. All right. So what we're going to do here is, this is a panorama that I put together inside of Camera Raw. We're not going to be doing panoramas today. I've done other sessions on that, and we'll probably do those again in the future. But sometimes when you do a panorama, and it doesn't just even have to be a panorama, but this is a good place to kind of show it, things can get warped or weird. Same thing when you're using a wide angle lens, fisheye lens, all those kind of things. Things can tend to get off in the distance and they can get weird. So how you're going to fix that is you're going to go into geometry. And in the geometry, we can go through and we can do these manual adjustments. So, we could go through, we could start tilting it. These are great to work with. The horizontals, kind of like taking a page and tilting it sideways. We can rotate, we can change the aspect, we can do all those kind of fun things. But there's another option that's available, and that's upright. Now we could choose the automatic upright, and it's gonna pretty much do a pretty good job. Actually, that's not bad. We're losing the top of the building a little bit, but hey, that's what you get. Even though the top of the buildings are actually cut off. But we have other options. We'll look at those options. But what I want to look at here is the guided upright. So if we choose on this option, and you see these little grid kind of looking things, what this enables us to do is to straighten the photos or straighten the images directly here within Camera Raw. Now, if you're using Lightroom, these settings are exactly the same in Lightroom. So this works great for fisheye panoramas. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drag this line, and notice that we can move it around however we want. And I want to follow the edge of that building because I want to kind of straighten this up a little bit. Now, nothing is going to happen until we add a second adjustment. So why don't we add this second adjustment over this building? So I'm going to drag this. And by the way, if you're near that point, it gets really hard. It's like trying to balance a ball bearing on a ball bearing. And if you take it further away, notice it's much easier and more stable. Bonus tip. When you're holding a lens, it's exactly the same way. I see people holding a camera. I've got this. I'm just going to show you this. Just completely random tip right now. But if you're holding your camera, and let me make sure I have, yeah, you guys can see me there. And I'll just go full screen for a second. So if you're holding your camera, and I see people, they hold the lens here. And this is good because it gives you a nice, good, stable, grip. This is what they teach you, right? Make sure you get a good grip on that lens there. Grab it nice, and then grab the handle and shoot like this. Well, this is not the best way. This is kind of like what I just showed you on that screen when you're really close and a little movement goes a long way. What if you take your hand further down that lens and hold it near the end, particularly if you're on a zoom lens, and then grab your camera like this. I mean, don't put your fingers over the lens, but hold it forward and do that. You're actually going to get a much more stable base on your camera, and you're going to get less camera shake. So there's just a little bonus tip that just kind of came to me. Let me get you back in here. So hopefully that was useful. Hey, good to see you, Bernie. Don't worry if you're running late. The replay will be live afterwards. And that little tip I was just showing you, once again, when you're doing a longer lens and you get that hand more forward, way more stability, guys. So just threw that out. Stroop Braithwaite, Kia ora, good to see you there from New Zealand. All right, so notice what happened is when I put that second one there, now it's straightened up the photo between the two. So if we look at this, there was before, and we're just kind of rocking and rolling off to the side there, and after, it straightened it up. So that's really useful. Now, sometimes it can look a little squished or squashed, and then this is where we can go under the manual adjustments. We can apply it with the guide and change the aspect ratio. Now we can make it nice and squat. And look at that. It's not looking so bad. Because here it was looking a little too skinny. So let's just pull it back. And you can see there, now things are looking a little bit more like people's eating habits during quarantine. We all know about that. I know about that. So I'm just going to hit the cancel there because I just wanted to show you that. Let me show you something else here with upright, which is kind of fun. Let me find another image. Let me get this one here. We're going to right click and we're going to open this in Camera Raw. All right. Just don't grab the focus ring. Good idea there, Joe Lib. So yes, don't grab the focus ring. But if you look at, like a camera like this, I mean, you could, if you're, in manual focus, just make sure you don't move it. But, get your hand there on the front, right there. And in fact, a lot of the time, when you have this on here, this is where I'll grab it. I'll actually grab it on right forward, right on there. That's actually the best place to do it. Okay, there we go. On the lens hood. All right, so here we go. We've got this other image that we're going to look at. And I just want to kind of just show you a little bit more with this upright because it works really great. So let's go and just move down here. There we go, under geometry. Now remember, there's a lot of good stuff hidden in these little arrow things. So options. Hidden. Whenever you see these little tiny little arrows here, click them and options will appear. It takes a little bit of getting used to, since they changed the interface. I'm pretty used to it now. But, at first there's a lot of options that you think, oh, where are they? They're hidden. All right, so under geometry, we've got the upright. Now we can do the auto, which is, we'll come to this one last. we can just level it. So if we click there, what it's going to do is it's just going to straighten a photograph. And sometimes that works really, really well. It'll straighten it on the horizon. The other time we can do it here and we can straighten it that way. Now clearly we have to crop it out a little bit. You know, it's looking weird and stretched, but look at the shape. It's actually pretty good. And if we were to do that, we could also go and use the rotate and just kind of do a little manual tweaking in there as well. So don't forget, you can use this upright to automatically get started. Then we can use the manual transformation. Then there's this one here, which is the full. And if we apply that, this is really just going to flatten everything out. Now, it seems like a little extreme for a photo, right? But this has another couple of uses. This can be really great if you're creating brushes. Because when you're creating brushes in Photoshop, you want this nice and straight. Maybe we'll do this in a second. Yeah, we'll create a brush. Or you're creating a 3D texture. Or you want to just have a little bit more control. You can do the full, and then maybe you want to go in here and do vertical and just give it a little perspective. So now it's looking more realistic, because as things get further away, they appear smaller. But when you have a lens, and when you shoot that lens directly, and it's not going to be bad, but if you tilt that lens up, which a lot of us do when we're shooting, tall objects, or maybe we're going this way and we're tilting it up, it's going to create keystoning because of the curvature of the lens. So that means that the flat part of the lens is pointing up, but the stuff down here is going to distort more. So what you want to do to avoid that is shoot straight like this and maybe zoom out a little bit with the lens. Take the shot with your camera straight and then crop it later. That will actually reduce some of the keystoning rather than being tempted to tilt your camera like that, especially if you're using a wide angle lens. So that's just another tip. A lot of things that we do, we fix in Photoshop and Lightroom Camera Raw can actually be fixed by shooting. I've actually been thinking about maybe creating a series of training on actual photography. Is that something you guys are interested in? Let me know. But anyway, you want a little bit of this perspective, but just not too much. So we don't want a ton of keystoning, but you can use the vertical here and just put a little bit there just to kind of make things, give that feeling of depth and distance, but not so much that it's all looking weird and distorted. All right, so I'm just going to double click and reset that. And then we've got the other option here, which is auto. And the auto is pretty good. So if we look at this before, you can see after, it's not perfect, but what it does is it makes the photo look better and a more kind of pleasing result aesthetically. So if you want to quickly go there, this was in Detroit. This is the train building, or the train station, railway building. Okay, so I'm just going to do this complete full-on thing because I just want to show you something. And I'm going to open this in Photoshop. So Keith is interested, and that's not even something I'm thinking about as a premium title. I was just thinking like maybe literally just create a series on YouTube and photoshopCAFE. It's something that you guys would like, just something simple, weekly kind of thing. And if it's something that is popular and you guys are really interested, I could consider doing a more in-depth, course or whatever. All right, so when we've got this building, now I want to show you how we could use this as a brush, or we could use it, for kind of 3D stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little selection around here. And I'm going to make this, let's make it a brush. So we're going to choose this, we're going to choose edit, and then we'll do a couple of things with this. Let's eat the whole buffalo, or use the whole buffalo, I guess is what they say. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go under edit, and we want to define this as a brush preset. So we're going to choose define brush preset right there. And we'll call it building. And we're going to do that. While we're at it, why don't we do a texture? So we're going to choose edit. We're going to define a pattern. We'll call this one building. And yeah. That's going to work nicely. And let me just show you something else you could do. Is if you wanted to work in 3D, I'm just going to choose a mesh, and we're going to create a cube from this layer. Now it might do the whole layer, or it might do my selection. Yeah, it did the whole layer. Not what I wanted. Okay, so let's undo that. And what I'll do is I should just Command J, copy that to a new layer. There we go. And now we're going to go in here in 3D, new mesh from layer. We're not going to get in depth with this. Once again, we've done a 3D one. We could do another one another time if it's something you guys are interested in. We're going to choose the cube. And essentially, it's just going to kind of put that into a cube. I really needed to crop down to that to get the perfect result. Let's do that. Let's choose image crop. Boom. 3D. Let's do this again. Let's do mesh preset. Let's do the cube wrap rather than a cube. There we go. And you can see. There we go. So now you could create something that looked like a building. You could copy them. You could do a whole bunch of them. That's one of the things we could do. Let me just undo that. And I'll just create a new document and show you some other things we can do with this. And this is the fun thing about doing it live. We can just go off script and do whatever we want. I'm cropping this larger. And I'm just going to fill it with, let's fill it with blue. Why not? And what I want to show you is this brush. So if we create a new layer and we grab a brush, we can actually stamp with this object. Let me go to, I don't know, black. Make sure we've got that brush. This is the brush we created, the building. And let's make it a little smaller, left bracket key, and literally, if we turn the flow and everything up, turn off pen pressure, there we go. We can just literally stamp with this. So, you could create all kinds of stamps, all kinds of things you wanted to do with it. We can make it taller. There's a lot of things we could do. Or the other thing we can do is we created that texture. Let's have a look and see what we got with that texture. So let's go window here, and what we want to do is open the patterns panel. And with the patterns, we can see there's the texture. So I'm just going to drop that on there and hide that stuff underneath. And look at that. See how it tiles it and creates a seamless tile. Now that's not perfect, obviously. We could have fixed it before we created it. And let me show you a little way to do that. Since we're going off script, let's just go completely off script. Image crop. These are useful tips for you guys. Okay, so now if you feel like, okay, this is not looking quite right, choose window. And then under the window, is it the view? Maybe it's view, pattern preview. So we turn on pattern preview. Now you can see what it would look like as a seamless tiling pattern. Control T. Well, let me I'm going to go here. I'm just going to combine these two together. Just turn it into a regular layer. So Control E will do that. Merge that down. Come on, let's do that. Rasterize the layer first. Let's just quickly merge this down. Go up the top there. Come on. Get above it. There we go. Nice. Control E. All right, so now we've got a regular. I'm going to hit Control T once again for free transform. And this time I'm going to choose distort. And so what I'm trying to do is line it up. Notice these don't line up. They don't tile. So now if I just drag these out. Oh, there we go. See what I'm doing? I'm just making this. And with that pattern preview, you can see what it would look like as a seamless pattern. And literally get it to work the way you want it to work. Hit enter. And you can see we can do that. Now at this point here, let me go a little bit bigger because I feel like there's a little gap there. Let's get rid of that gap. And someone's asking how many tiles does it paste? It's not actually pasting any tiles at the moment. What it's doing is just previewing it. So right now our document is just in the middle. This is just a preview, and this will go on endlessly. Look, and it's just as far as out as you can zoom. And all it's doing is just enabling you to, perfectly, distort this and get it where you want it as a seamless tiling pattern. Just keep moving them around until everything lines up. Looking awesome. And there's our pattern. So at this point here, what I would do is I'd control A, or control command A to select all, and then we're going to define a new pattern. So we're going to do this again. So we're going to define the pattern, and now we're going to call this building tile, because now we know it's going to tile perfectly. Now I'll just turn off this preview, because we had the view here. We were just doing the pattern preview. Now it's gone. So if I was to create a bigger document, I'll show you, we'll use this pattern now. Say we have a bigger document like this, and this is the pattern I want to use. I drag it on here. Let me go to my regular. Wow, that's a slow way that's playing, isn't it? Where are we? Here. Okay. Let me just get rid of all of these. 1 second here, guys. And I'm just going to fill this. Okay, so we've got another document here, and boom, we drop that on here, and you can see we've got the seamless tiling. Now you can control this. If we double click the name of the pattern, this will bring up the pattern fill, and we can scale it. So we can scale it smaller. Look at this. We can make it larger. So you can change the size of this now, and literally make buildings as big or as small as you want. We can reposition them just by dragging. And because it's seamless, we can drag it however we want. We can even change the angle of it if you wanted, which, maybe a Spider-Man flying through the buildings and you're trying to create some kind of a texture, behind you, like a depth of field kind of falling off. Let me just go one more bit here. We're just going to go under the blur gallery and let's do a field blur just for fun. And I have to rasterize that first. Okay, let me just Alt or Option click there. Let me create a new layer. Select the two layers. Control E. That will merge them together. It'll give me a rasterizing effect. Let's do that again. Filter, Blur Gallery, Field Blur. And now I'm going to set this pin. It's going to make it blurry. Create a new pin. Double click while holding down Control or Option. We'll make this sharp, and now we can have this going off into the distance. So you can have Spider-Man flying through here, and you're creating a background. Okay, so there's just some creative expressions there. I don't know if that's interesting. I'm sure it's interesting to somebody. But that's what we're doing there. All right, cool. Let's look at a couple more things. So I'm going to select this image, and I'm going to select these images. And let's select that image, and I'm going to open all of these into Camera Raw. So if I right click and I choose Open in Camera Raw, we can view multiple photos inside of Camera Raw. So we're going to do some fun things with these. First one I just want to talk about is shadow highlight. So how many of you get this shot? This is the tourist shot, right? We all have this tourist shot here. And this is me in Hawaii. And what happens is we're in the shade, the background is in the light, where it be the Hollywood sign or whatever it is. This, always happens, right? And we're like, hey, I want to show myself. And so what do? We turn up the brightness, and look at that. We're looking great. But while we're doing that, we're destroying the background. As you can see, it's windy here at Makapu'u. It's blowing my sleeve right up. It's always windy there. Except for the last time I was there, it wasn't. All right, so rather than doing that with the exposure, this is what shadow and highlight do. We know we've got all these settings here, right? I like to think of shadow and highlight as recovery. They recover shadows, they recover highlights. And if you think of it that way, it really simplifies what we're going to do with the rest of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the shadows. Now I can reveal myself, look at that, without blowing out the background. Notice the background is completely unchanged. It's only moving that shadow area. Silhouette, see me now. Same thing if we go into the highlights. Watch what happens with the highlights. Look, it's not changing the island, which is Makapu'u. It's not changing the sea, myself, anything. It's only changing the highlights. So what we do is push that back. Let's make those clouds nice and obvious. Let's open up the shadow. Now, if I go too far, this gives us this cartoony look. So we can take what we've learned here. Let me reset these. And that means I can open exposure a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. And let's pull the highlights back. We're recovering the sky. So we can do a little bit of that. Once again, not too much, but a little bit. And this has opened us up enough that we can do a little bit of shadow now without having to go so far. Now we can open it up and I don't look cartoony. It looks more realistic. Now the other thing you want to do is we set our blacks. See a little gap in the histogram there. Push the blacks over. It gives a little body to the rest of the image. And we can do the same thing with the whites. But the whites are not really blown out. If anything, we can pull them back and recover a little bit more. Look at this before and after. Look at that. The background is showing through even better. And the foreground is looking nice. Now I'm going to reset this because I want to show you. Hold down the Alt or the Option key, by the way. We'll reset. And I'm going to open that in Photoshop just to show you another thing. I'm glad, Tracy, that penny just dropped. And sometimes I'll do these things which can be, just seem very simple, but it can sometimes be that little bit that you're missing and understand things. And if you've been around me long enough, I love to break things down so you can kind of understand how they work. And in that way, you can make more informed decisions when you're making adjustments rather than just, oh, this slider makes it brighter, this makes it darker. We know that. All right. So what we want to do here is kind of similar thing, right? Sunrise. This was the day of the eclipse. And look at this beautiful sunrise. This actually became an eclipse a little bit later on. Another story. But in order to capture the sunrise and the color in the sky, I had to bring this down to, look at this. I'm shooting at f4, which is pretty open on that lens. But I'm shooting this very fast. 6,400th of a second shutter speed in order to get this to look nice and not blow out and lose the detail. Now we're not seeing anything in the foreground because the shutter speed is too quick. So then I took another photograph. Here I set it so we can see, oh, these are hay bales and different things like this. Now I'm down to 1/400th of a second. Yeah, this is super early. It's very dark when I'm doing this. That's why the ISO is up to 800. Didn't want to go any higher than that. Working on a Canon 5D Mark IV. Above, Mark III actually there, sorry. Above 800 is when noise starts to creep in. So that's as far as I wanted to go. And I believe f4 might have been the maximum on that lens. So 1/400th of a second brings this detail, but we're losing everything in the sky. So what I want to do is I took 3 photographs. And this is what HDR is about. HDR is not about creating an effect. It's about showing details and highlights and shadows simultaneously. And if we go in here and see these little dot things, if we select the 3 inside of Camera Raw, you can do the same thing, of course, in Lightroom. We have the option to go down to merge to HDR. Now, if you hear that weird noise, it's the arm on this chair. I need to tighten this arm on the chair so you don't hear that cloppy noise. Sounds like a horse's hoof. I will fix that. All right, so what we want to do is we want to choose merge to HDR. Now what it's going to do is to take those 3 images, merge them together, and shows all the dynamic range of the sky. Dynamic range is detail that you can see in the highlights and shadows at the same time. We're going to turn off auto apply because that made it look a little fake. And we're going to choose merge. Now what's going to happen here is we're going to save a new file. It's going to be a new DNG file that contains all the tone information from those 3 photos. And I'm going to save it wherever I want, which just happened to be that random spot. Now, if we look in here, we can see, compare this to the original photo. We're not seeing anything in the hay bale. Here we're seeing a little bit more. This original photo here, we were seeing the sunrise, but losing color. This one we're seeing the best of both worlds. And now if we go down to our adjustments, we can open up our shadows a little bit. And we can open up our highlights a little bit. And we can see we can play around and get more dynamic range in that shot from all those photographs. And essentially that's, the guts of, or the gist of HDR. So I'm not going to, go further in that. I just wanted to just kind of show that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open a couple of these images. I've right-clicked them or control-clicked them, and I'm going to open these inside of Photoshop. Now, if I set to open objects, it's going to open these as objects or smart objects, meaning any adjustments I've made inside of Camera Raw will be saved, and I'll be able to change those after. So why don't I do this one so you can kind of see. And the other option is to click on the little arrow and just choose open. Now, if this is set to open, which I just went ahead and did that without thinking, that's okay. We're good with that. Let me go back into Camera Raw because I wanted to show you that option, not actually apply it. So let's just go back in here. We'll go back into Camera Raw. Here we go. Grab that one, and we're going to open in Camera Raw. And what I want to do is I want to open as objects. So let's select them all, choose open objects. Now, if this is set to something else, hold the shift key and that will toggle you between open and open objects. If it shows open, the shift key will change it to open objects. We're going to click that. Now these are going to open inside of Photoshop if they're going to behave themselves. Let's go to Photoshop and let's see what's happening here. Are they coming? Let me choose. Oh, get out of the blur gallery, of course. And then they will be able to open. There we go. Beautiful. So if you're in a dialog box, you're not able to open them while you're in that dialog box. Let me just reset the workspace here. And we can see, let's go to the HDR image. Remember I told you if you open as an object, we can always go back later. And so let's just double click here right now. And if we double click, notice the adjustments we made here are still there inside of Camera Raw. So we're able to go back in here and make these adjustments again. Maybe I want to warm it up a little bit. Much better. I don't know about you, but that was hurting me. And I'm going to take contrast back a little bit. This will enable me to hit that a little bit more. Let's hit those highlights a little more. Shadows. And let's give it a little texture. Punch of clarity. Little touch of dehaze. A little bit of vibrance. And you can see, before or after. This is starting to look a lot better. Click OK. And it will update it in Photoshop. So that's one of those things we can do. Now, if you're in here, there's another option here, which is shadow highlight, which does a very similar thing. So let me just show you very, very quickly. So we're going to choose the image adjustments, and we can go down to shadow highlight. Now, because I'm creating this as a smart object, this will make it as a smart filter because it's not available as an adjustment layer. Normally when I go under image adjustments, I'm going to grab an adjustment layer, but this one and HDR toning are not available as adjustment layers, so you have to go under the image adjustment. But because these are smart objects, these are going to work the same as adjustment layer. I'll show you in a little bit. So let's show more options. We can see there we were before, there we are after, opening up those shadows, brings out the detail nicely. And we can recover those highlights a little bit as well. Now, this is much more aggressive than what you're going to get in Camera Raw. So if you need to do this on steroids, do the shadow highlights here inside of Photoshop. And then we're just going to click OK, and that applies it. And notice, because it's a smart filter, we can turn it off, turn it back on, or go down where it says shadow highlight, double click on there. We can change the blending options, or double click on smart filters. The shadow highlight, there we go. The shadow highlight adjustments come back up, sit where they were, and we can change them so these are re-editable, just like you're going to get working on a RAW image or working inside of Camera Raw. So it's completely non-destructive. We can change those settings, just double click its name, boom, pops up again. So that's another nice option. All right, let's keep going here because I do want to get to a little bit of fix my photo. And yeah, HDR does not have to be oversaturating. That's a look, like people called it the HDR effect, which is not, it's a look. It's not HDR. It's just a look. But you can use HDR to achieve it. Okay, so I want to show you a quick way to create a beam of light here. Let me just do that quickly. And I've got a new layer here, and I'm going to grab the polygonal lasso tool on a new layer. I'm just going to click once, which is going to make sure I'm on the polygonal one, or the polygon. drag it out. We're just creating what would be a beam. And let's go there. And essentially what we've done is we've created a little beam of light. Well, the shape. Now we add the beam. I'll show you a cool way to do it. Hit the D key, resets foreground colors and background. We want white as our foreground color. Now we're going to go down, we're going to grab our gradient tool. Now here's an option not everybody uses. Foreground to transparent. You'll see that under basics. Yours will look like this. I drag them out so I don't have to open these all the time. So they're just always going to be available. So foreground to transparent is going to work nicely. And then what this is going to do is going to create a blend from white to transparent. Control D, and notice now it's creating a more realistic beam of light. Right now it looks cartoony, and that's because the edges are hard. Let's soften those edges, and it's going to look way more realistic. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Not that much, although that looks kind of cool. If it was foggy, this would work awesome. But because it's not so foggy, we just want to have a nice soft edge here. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. That's starting to work nicely. And you could change the blending mode or the opacity of this, make it a little bit more realistic. There we go. Dropping that down a little bit to around about 30%. And now we've got that beam of light coming out from the lighthouse. And that's that beam that goes all the way around. Now, if you wanted to do it like a double-sided lighthouse where it's showing both sides, then all you do is just hold down the Alt or the Option key, drag out a copy, Control T for free transform, right click, and then we're going to choose flip horizontal. And then we can just position that the other way, hit enter, and now we've got the lighthouse coming out both sides. If you wanted to get real fancy, you could put a lens flare in there, but in all honesty, that probably wouldn't be realistic because that would only work if the light is pointing directly towards you. You would get a flare. The lights are going to the sides right now, so I wouldn't put a lens flare if you want it for realism. All right. And in the other way, if we can do this, Control T, let's bring it up a little bit. And we can change the size of it. So if you wanted to make that smaller, bigger, whatever, we can do that. Now, I just want to mention something to you guys, and that is last week, if you guys remember, we did the digital photographers for the 50th anniversary, and I did a special, and I just want to extend that just for just this week. Now, I just want to say this, and I just want to clear this up. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. We won't be talking about this next week. I won't be offering any coupons or anything like that. But I got a lot of people contacted me and asked me about that. And so, Bruce, if you don't mind, just share that code again. I actually was shutting it off on the last weekend, and then a lot of people contacted me, so I put it back. And I'm going to, because I was showing you guys stuff off the camera raw, just for you guys, I'm going to offer this here for the camera raw class, or my session right there. And that is going to be, I'm not going to say it here because this is not something I'm going to put on the mailing list or on the website, or we're not even going to do this again. So I just want to let you guys know. Once again, please don't feel any pressure. I'm not trying to sell this. I just basically want to offer that, and that's that 40% that we were doing last week. Not going to say it. Bruce, put it there, please. And I'm not going to say that. So this kind of goes hand in hand with that title I did, the Photoshop for Digital Photographers, is the Camera Raw Handbook. This is not a book. It's a video series. A lot of people ask me about that. I believe this is one of my newest titles that I've done, and it is the newest, actually. And it's updated for the latest version. It has everything you need to know about it. And it's, how many hours? It's like 8 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours. Anyway, so that's it. Not going to mention that again, but I just figured since so many people were asking me about that, if you guys want to take advantage of that, I will give you that 40% on there. And no, that won't be, Black Friday. We won't be repeating that. That we're not doing that again. This is for our 50th. Just kind of extending that. All right. So guys, moving on, because this is not one of those, those webinars you watch where people, well, they don't even show you anything. Maybe they show you half a tip, talk about their life story, and then try to sell you on something for, normally it's $779. You can get it for $99 this week. Yeah, we don't do that. And I don't have anything that's normally $749. And this course is normally $79. And I could have said normally $300, but I wouldn't sell it for $300. So anyway, I hate that gimmicky marketing. I'm just throwing that out there. All right, guys, moving on. Fix my photo. Are you guys ready? Let's do it. And here we are at Fix My Photo, everyone's favorite segment where I work on your photos. It's funny how I kind of do this whole intro again, like you guys didn't just see what was happening, like I wasn't just here. But anyway, if you're just joining us, welcome to Live from Lockdown, and welcome to Fix My Photo, where I fix your photos. So if you want to submit your photo, put it to fixmyphoto.net. You don't have to do it now, you can do it later. Make sure you use a raw file. I would really appreciate that. Put your name in the file name so we know who put the photo, who submitted the photo, and I can give you a shout out, credit, all that fun stuff. No more than 3 photos per person per week. And we're going to be looking at ones that were submitted last week, but feel free to submit yours for this week. Stuart says that ACR great code. Well, thank you, Stuart. Let me get you guys on the screen here. And here I am. And these are the photos that you guys submitted this week. We keep it real here, guys. Like I was saying, it's like this is sponsored by nobody. So we can say whatever we want. All right. So here's some photos that you guys submitted. We did this one last week. We fixed this one. But I don't really need to show that. There was a Dogecoin. I put that on Bruce's face. Stuart Braithwaite is here this week. So this was his photo, by the way, that we did. And he missed it, so I might as well just... That was his photo he sent before. And then we just did a quick sky replacement. And Photoshop Automatic Sky Replacement actually did that. So thank you for sharing that one, Stuart. Is that a mosquito? I'm asking that. I think it is. And, Tracy got all excited. It's Star Wars. All right, well, if we're so excited about Star Wars, let's look at Star Wars. And, Stephen Frost. I was going to say, if this was Tracy, I'd be like, way to get us to look at your picture. Rod Shelley, good to see you. Sorry about your car. The replay will be live. Oh, by the way, guys, if you're watching this and you're wondering, hey, I missed a lot, don't worry, the replay comes on YouTube live right after this, and we keep the replay forever, so you guys can watch it later. If you're watching the replay and you're chatting and you're wondering why no one's responding, it's because the chat pod here with everybody in there with the hundreds of messages that happens during the live stream. If you see the comment section in YouTube, you can drop a comment and I will respond to that if you're watching the replay. But if you're wondering where's the chat, that's why. Or, you might see the chat, but you can't chat, because you're not live. All right, let's open this inside of Photoshop and see what we can do here with this one here. And this was Stephen Frost. Once again, are you here, Stephen? I'm looking for you. I don't see your name there. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Or say, yay, I was included in the replay afterwards. Okay, so we've got a Imperial Stormtrooper, a baby Pez dispenser. No. We've got R2-D2. And we've got this thing in the background. Was this like a blowtorch or something? It's kind of cool. I'm not sure what that is. Some kind of a weapon. If someone knows what that is, a Star Wars thing, let me know. So I'm just kind of thinking, okay, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to try something just for fun. Let's see what we can do about selecting these objects. And I choose select subject. What's it going to choose? Oh, not bad. Good start. So now I'm using the object selection tool. And I'm going to hold down the shift key and include these guys. Let's hold down the alt or the, let's have a look here. The alt or the option key, we don't want that to be included. You know what, I'm just going to start this again. So what I do is when I use object selection, I choose select to mask or select subject to see how far it's going to get us. It's not really doing what I want. So let's just do it manually. We can drag around here. We're going to grab R2D2. So what we're going to do is we want to just make the background darker. I think that'll be kind of fun. Okay, so we've got R2 there mostly. Looking good. Let's grab the Stormtrooper. I love the teddy bear. Oh, this is not the one from Family Guy, is it? The Stewie? Is that Stewie from Family Guy? Someone let me know if it is. A Gronk droid gone bad. All right. Okay, so where is that, like Gronk the football player? All right, so we're going around here. We're making selections. We're trying to do that. Okay, what do we got here? Let's hit the Alt option and take away from there. Shift will add. So I'm just using the select. This is a kind of a fun tool here, the object selection. It uses AI to kind of do that. So I'm going to hit the plus key. Not the plus key. What am I thinking? Let's click here. I want to hit the mask tool. There we go. And mask these guys out. Not bad. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. I think that's going to work. Control J for the background. And what I'm going to do here is I am going to get rid of the mask on the background. Let's just delete it. And this will show the background again. I just wanted to see if we had a decent cutout, which we do. And then we're just going to blend this. Let me just grab a brush. We're not going to use the building brush, although that could be kind of an interesting look. Let's put this building in the background. You know what? We are going to do that. Why not? Just for fun. All right, let's do that. So I'm going to create a new layer. And remember those buildings we created? Let's use them. We're going to go in here and we're going to open up our patterns panel. Let's pull it down and drag that under there. I don't know what's up with that slow motion, like, but yeah. Let's make it bigger. So we're going to double click on here. Pattern. Let's increase the scale. So we got this big building in the background. Dystopian. Looks like something that would be in Star Wars. And then we've got a mask here, so we're going to blend the background in using a layer mask. So let me just tell you what's going to happen. We've got this pattern here, and look underneath. We've got that floor. So I'm just going to unclip it. Alt or Option key will unclip that. Blowtorch is right. Okay, good. Just making sure you guys could see the screen. I felt my watch going. I was like, hang on a sec. Was Bruce saying your screen's not showing? Let's have a look and see what Bruce is saying here. How long is the code good for? I'll let the code last until till Monday. Sunday night I'll shut it down, so till the end of the weekend. How's that? I know some people are watching the replay. So it's Thursday. I'll tell you what, we'll let it go until next Thursday. So next Live from Lockdown, that code will not be there. So we'll let it go just for a few days. How's that? All right. And if you don't see the code, which you're not, because I'm not sharing it, but you're a member of Live from Lockdown, you're not able to watch this live, hit me up and I'll share it with you. All right. So what we want to do now is we want to blend this away. So we're using a foreground and background on the layer mask. And then if we do that, see what it's doing? We're fading this off into the distance. And I'm just trying to find a nice fading point. Sometimes you don't have to get a perfect cutout. You can just blend stuff like we're doing here. And what we want to do is just kind of blur this background so it looks in the distance. Because right now, see, this looks really super close and we don't want that. So why don't we go in here? We're going to choose our filter and we're going to use blur. Actually, I believe I need to rasterize this first. So we're going to rasterize that. Right click. Rasterize the layer. Boom. Okay, now we can do it. Filter blur. And let's just use the blur gallery again. Let's use the field blur. I see a lot of people do this and they use this for their blur. And you can do that. And it works pretty good. But there's another interesting one here. By the way, you can change the blur in here. If we go here, another interesting one is the iris blur. Kind of gives a lens baby kind of a feel. And see what it does here. So we kind of have a point of focus, and then everything else kind of falls off. So you can do that. Gives an interesting kind of a lens baby-ish look. And we can pull it in here to have that kind of blend. And why don't we do that just for fun? And I'm going to stretch it out. There we go. And so this will just give us something different kind of a blur. And we can adjust the amount of blur by choosing this little adjustment in the middle here. All right, cool. And so what we're doing is we're kind of making that look like it goes off into the distance. Now I want to add a blur on here. I want to do one on the whole thing just for fun. Let me select everything. Or actually, we can just choose the top layer. Hold the Shift Option Command and then hit the E key, and it'll create a merge layer on top. I'm just curious how this is going to look if I do it this way versus something else. But I just got another idea. You know what? I'm going to use a cloud brush. Let's create a new layer. So I've created a new layer here. And I'm going to keep that layer there. So it's going to be behind everything. These guys, the stormtroopers. I just got an idea before I do that. And I want to show you guys how to use a cloud brush. Cloud brush is in the vault. If you guys haven't already gone there, I think you've all been to the vault. photoshopcafe.com/vault. A lot of free stuff there, including the cloud brush. So I'm going to go down and grab the cloud brush here. Let's use the soft cloud one. You can get those for free. Once again, photoshopcafe.com/vault. And what I'm going to do here is I am going to put a gray cloud in here. Just going to paint it in a little bit. Make it smaller. Take that flow down. I'm using a Wacom. You can do this with a mouse, but you need to set your flow to like 5 or 6% and just slowly build it up. See, that's a lot. It's too much. So what we do is click on the brush setting, and under that brush setting here, we can go down and we can use transfer, and I'm going to set it to pen pressure for opacity. That way, if I press light, it's not as dark. See, now I can just kind of build this up a little bit. So I'm going to build up a little atmosphere here. Let's make it look a little more interesting. It will give us a little bit of depth too. And let's go a little darker. The key to making these clouds look realistic, to make it smaller, is varying the tones. So don't do everything with the same tone or everything will just look flat. If you vary the shades of gray that you're using, you're going to see some depth and dimension to the fog and the clouds that you're creating. See what's happening there? And maybe we'll go to a real bright part, maybe some white. Let's bring the flow down lower. And here we go. Make it a little larger. And we can drop some more clouds. And I'm kind of having them darker the closer they are. Now, we want to have a little bit in the foreground, so let's create a new layer in front. Because, you know, hey, clouds have depth. But the reason I started with the background is because if you look at atmosphere, the further it gets away, the thicker it is, the closer it is to you, the thinner it is because there's less depth in that cloud. So we're going to have a more shallow cloud up the front here. Just a little dropping it in so it just kind of looks like something there. And yeah, we can come back and fix some of this in a little bit. Go a little bit darker. And let's do a little bit there. Just adding a little bit more foggy, cloudy thing. See, haze. Haze is what we're looking for. Okay, so now we've got a little bit more haze going on there. And things are starting to look a little bit more interesting. Now, let's see here. I want to kind of take this away from the ground a little bit. So we're going to grab a layer mask. And then with the mask, we're going to grab black. And we're still going to use the cloud brush. The cloud brush is a great way of masking because it's not going to create the solid line. It's going to create a nice cloudy kind of a mask effect as well. And notice we're not getting rid of the stuff in front. We're only getting rid of the stuff behind. And I want the ground plane to be solid. There we go. And pop it in the front. Now we're starting to get a little bit of depth in here. This is starting to look fun. Now I feel like we need to really kind of up the drama a little bit. What do you guys think? A little bit of drama would be nice. Let's do that. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to create add a LUT. So we're going to go down into our adjustments and choose color lookup. Color lookup. Or CLUT. All right, click on here and these are LUTs. Now, once again, I gave you guys some LUTs as well. Those are also in that vault. But let me see. I might use the ones that I created here. The filmic one. It's kind of fun. So I'm going to take that down a little bit. So I'm not going to have this strong. I'm just going to have a little bit, and see how it's giving it a little bit more of a mood. It's giving it a nice kind of a feel to it. And I'm going to change the overall tone of this. So we're going to choose a... Why don't we apply a hue saturation adjustment layer? And I'm just going to move the hue a little bit. So I'm going more into the... little bit more into those kind of tones. Just be careful there. We're not going too much. Great. Let's do another adjustment. This time I'm going to create a curves adjustment layer. And I'm going to give this some contrast. Give a little bit of contrast there. It's looking fun. Now I'm going to do one more, which is going to be pretty extreme. But I wanted to just kind of set everything here so you can kind of see we're starting to get a look. We're definitely getting an interesting look here. I don't know what it looks like, but it's a look. That's where we were before, and this is where we are after right now. And... someone's asking a question there. Please explain in detail how I can get the 40% discount. Totally confused. Okay, Dale, or anybody watching, what you do is go to photoshopcafe.com, click on that link that will take you to the product you want, and the one I'm recommending is the Camera Raw Handbook, because this is in-depth on Camera Raw. And then all you need to do is choose buy low, download now. Sorry guys, we'll get back to the tutorial, but people are asking me. Then you go in here, you'll see a thing, apply coupon code. That code that I'm not going to share verbally because it's not for everybody, it's just for you guys. Put that code in here, apply it, it will put the discount in there, and then you can go ahead and purchase that and download it. Now, if you are part of the Cafe crew and you're watching the replay, contact me at photoshopcafe.com. You'll see contact, and I will send you that code. All right, back to the tutorial. Okay, so here we are. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a another LUT. So we're going to apply a LUT on top of a LUT. And the color lookup. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to make this kind of dark and moody and then just allow the light to hit in certain places. So this is not going to be so lit up. And it's going to add a mood. You'll see what I mean. So we've got another LUT on top. We're going to choose Load 3D LUT. And when we do that, that loads. These are the LUTs we've put into Photoshop. If you click that again, you can go out and you can find other LUTs and add those in there. But we're going to use the ones that I've installed in Photoshop. And we're going to go down to the moonlight. And this is going to give us a nighttime scene. Awesome. I'm digging that. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to create that light. Remember how we created that spotlight effect before on the lighthouse? We're going to do that again here under color lookup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the polygon lasso and I'm going to start outside. So if you don't see the outside space, just option zoom with your scroll wheel and zoom out. And by the way, my background's white. Default, you'll probably see this. What I did is I changed it to custom, and under select custom color, I chose white. You can make your background any color you want. Let's go back to white before everybody's eyes start bleeding. All right, just thought of that. Someone might have wanted to know. Okay, so here's the point. The spotlight's going to be up here somewhere. And so we're going to go down there. We're going to drag it down there. And of course, there's probably more than one spotlight because this is going to be like one of those kind of scenes, right? So now we're going to choose our gradient, set the foreground color to white, just like we did earlier on, and then we're going to choose foreground to transparent. So we're essentially doing exactly the same thing that we did when we created the other filter. Not the other filter, the light on the lighthouse. However, I see a problem because I'm about to apply white. Why would I want to choose white? Because it's not going to do anything. We're working on a layer mask. So let's make sure we work with black. And then we bring it in. So if I click and drag now, you're going to see Control D. It brings that light in on our adjustment layer there. See that? And I can just click and choose feather. And this will soften the edge. And then what it's doing is allowing some light to come through. See that? Or I could just blur it. Choose filter, blur. But you know what? I don't like it. I'm going to undo it. Then this is the beauty about working this way, is if you don't like something, just undo it and try it again. Because I feel like I'd like it a little thinner. And when you're doing tutorials, so often, people want me to get that right the first time. And so often in my tutorials, I create results I'm not happy with because people complain. They're like, dude, why did you undo it? You confused me. Well, I changed my mind. And right now, because we're live, I'm going to change my mind and add 2 spotlights. But this in the real world, when I'm working, I do this all the time. Like I do something, I'm like, you know what, I don't like it, I undo it, try it again. And sometimes you might do it 2 or 3 times until you get a result that you're happy with. All right, so I'm just going to drag this down here. See, I don't like it. Control Z, let's be real. I'm going to start closer. And what this is going to do is it's going to make it more intense. Control D, see, that's looking more interesting to me. So we're going to choose filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever create tutorials. It's live, it's different because I can explain with you guys. And I see a couple of questions. We'll get to those questions in a second, guys. But when I do a tutorial and I drop it on YouTube or whatever, oh my gosh, I get trolls, well, not even trolls, just people that are always judging the result, not realizing that, hey, I'm doing a tutorial trying to keep the steps nice and simple so you can follow it. In the real world, I change my mind, I experiment, I do different things, and I spend 10 times as long doing it, and I'm not talking at the same time. All right, so Control Select. What I've done here is I wanted to select the transparency on these guys because I want to put a little bit of light on them. And in order to do that, I'm able to select that because remember I created that mask when I cut them out. I hit the mask, and that mask, Control click on the mask will load that selection. And what I'm going to do now is with that selection, I'm not going to paint on the layer. I'm going to go to this adjustment. See this? And all I want to do is select the mask in here with the selection from the other mask. And this is going to work like a stencil. And this is going to enable me to paint out around these guys. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a regular brush, soft round brush here, and I'm just going to paint. And let me see a Bruce. I see Bruce had to bolt. And let me just have a look here if there's any questions here. Smash that like button. Oh my gosh. Yes, please, guys. Yes, if you haven't hit the like button, hit that like button, the little thumbs up. That helps us with the algorithm. Lets people see that, if YouTube helps us. And if you haven't yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button and become part of the CAFE crew. And then you'll also know when we're live as well. All right, so I see we had some questions there. And the stream focus seems to fade and then refocus. If you're having problems with that, just hit the refresh button. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to paint on these edges. So what I want to do is, because I'm using a Wacom tablet, I want to click the brush settings, transfer set to pan pressure. I'm going to take that flow down to maybe 10% or lower. And now I'm just going to paint around the edges that are pointing towards our light source. And this is just going to allow to make it look like some lights hitting these front faces. Now, obviously, that's going to get it too. So it's not just the edges where the selections are, but surfaces that will be pointing that way. A little bit on the top of R2 because, light's going to be coming down and hitting R2 there. A little bit is going to hit them here. And yeah. And so this is what we're doing here, just painting these edges. And this is going to add some depth, make the lighting look a little more realistic. This is probably in shadow, so it's not going to get it. But this face here might get a little bit. And just painting this in. Now, let me look at questions while I'm doing this. I've looked at the clouds from both sides now, from up and down. Still somehow clouds illusions. I recall, don't really know clouds at all. Clouds are interesting. Clouds are interesting. Just look at clouds in the sky and you can, or smoke or just, or foggy days. Whenever I see things that look a little bit different, I'm always paying attention because there's the things to learn. Like the things I've learned are from just looking and viewing and perceiving how nature works. So when you see something different, pay attention. Like it's foggy. How do you know it's foggy? Why? What makes it look foggy? What's it doing to the distance? What's it doing to things close to you? What's it doing to the color? How's it changing the saturation? How's it changing, you know, and all these things. So always look at those things and observe, and then apply that to your photo retouching, your illustration, you know, whatever you're doing, Photoshop, or even your real world illustration. Apply those things that you learn, and you'll start to get more realism. And you know, that's how you get the realism, just by looking and seeing what's happening. So what we're doing here is just by painting that. See how it's giving you a little bit more light in here now. So, you know, if I go before and after, see, it looks like that light's starting to hit the area now. And, you know, of course we can change this too. You know, if we're looking at this and I just want to change the color, we're just going to color blend mode. We could just change the color. We could go into other blend modes. You know, if you wanted to go more Zack Snyder kind of style, we go into the overlay mode here. And, you know, if it's too strong, bring it back. You know, and see what we're doing here is we're just changing this out. And I'm going to hit the Alt or the Option key, and this shows us before, and this shows us afterwards. Someone's trying to call me. Let me just refuse the call. Sorry, guy. All right. So now if it looks like they're floating, we can fix that too. All we need to do is just make sure we're not putting too many clouds. It's just varying the clouds. And then also, you know, we can put a little more shadow in here too. Also, you know, we could vary how it's going in the background. Maybe in the background here, let's make that more not so abrupt. Let's do this slower. So let's do a longer adjustment. And this is a nice thing about working on all these layers. Everything is re-editable. So we could go here, make this longer, and see how, well, definitely did not want that. Hang on, let's go in here. Make sure I'm working on the right area. Okay, so we want this blending the other way. Let's go the other way here. There we go. So we can start to blend these like that, or make them more abrupt here. I definitely want that above. There we go. So all we're doing is just trying to fix that distance. There we go. Maybe more into the distance. And see what I'm doing is I'm just changing this and making the background further away. Make it a little softer, the transition. Okay, so now it's starting to look more like they're grounded. So the background, we just needed a little bit more of that background to be extended. And see how that changes the perception of where everybody is. And all I'm doing there is I'm just using that gradient. And you're just changing the way people are viewing it. And see, now they look like they're on the ground. The other thing you could do is just put more shadow on the other side. Let me just do the shadow and then we'll finish with that. So I'm just going to create a new layer. I'm going to hold down the Control or Command key, and that'll put it underneath. I don't know why I felt like I needed to put underneath the curves, but we will. And I'll just put this into Overlay Blending mode. Control or Command, by the way, if you create a new layer, it puts it above. If you hold down Control, it'll put it beneath the currently selected layer. And I'm just going to paint a little shadow in here, and this will give us that effect we're looking for. So let's go into the brush. And if you guys got questions, drop your questions in there and we'll look at those. So I'm going to go pretty hard with these shadows to start with. And we're just going to build these up. Once again, I don't want to go outside the edge. So Control-click on the mask. And that selects that mask. And see what I'm doing now? I'm painting these shadows on that new layer. I'm going to go really strong with the shadows. And we can drop them down later. So what I'm doing is I'm really overemphasizing the fact that the sides in shadow. Very, very strong. The bottom, this part will be in shadow, and you'll see how this will also, you can't add highlights without adding shadows. I shouldn't have gone as far, but let's just quickly do this. Just adding shadows on this side. This will up the drama a lot, you'll see. Just adding that on the inside here. This will be in shadow. That would be in shadow. Under there would be a shadow. More shadow on the side here. Once again, we're going too far. We'll wind it back. The side of the teddy bear would be in shadow. Sinister Bear. This side of his helmet. Stewie or whoever it is. And then we go there. Alright, so Control D. Now we're getting more shadow. What I would do is put more shadow on the ground. So let's create a new layer underneath and add that shadow. You're going to be painting with that black. You'll add shadow on this side. There we go. Let me just turn the flow up so we can go a little quicker. And see what I'm doing is I'm adding shadow in here. And it's not going to show up a ton because we've got the clouds and other things there, but I'm just putting a little bit. All right, so now it's way more dramatic. And if it's too dramatic, there we are before and after. If it's too dramatic, just change the blending mode here to multiply. And then we can just pull the opacity down a little bit and just kind of blend it in. And see how that's giving us that drama. And if we look at this before and after, I don't know, seems like kind of fun. Film noir, yeah. You know, or I see the Zack Snyder look, you know, the 300 look, or the new Justice League. And if it's too much, yeah, we can increase it even more, make it really strong, or we can make it more subtle. Just pulling it down. So, you know, you have all those options. And then, of course, you can do a color. Let's do a color adjustment at the very end. We're going to grab a curves adjustment layer, and I'll show you how to do some stuff with curves as far as colorizing. So under here, we're going to change the red channel. Let's boost the reds. So we're going to put more reds into our highlight area. Let's go into the blue. So we're going to boost the blues in the shadow. Let's pull down the reds in the shadow. So we're getting a little bit more dramatic. And then we could go into greens. We could push it up, make it more matrixy, or make it more kind of sinister. I'm going to go for sinister, like pinkish. And why don't we do one more adjustment? Hue saturation. And we'll use this just to shift the whole thing. I'm going to make it more red. Let's go much more red. Make it darker. That's a little too red, which is okay. And then what we're going to do now is we can just take the opacity, take it all the way down, and just roll it in. And see, what we've done is we've created a whole new effect like this. So anyway, guys, that was a lot of different things that we did here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. So what I'm going to do, for those of you who need to go, I'm going to dismiss the class, and then we'll do questions and answers, and we will do our afterglow for a little bit. All right, guys, so thank you for watching. Do me a favor, if you got any value out of this, hit that like button. It helps us with the algorithm. Also, if you have not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and that will enable you to get notifications of when we go live. So until next time, I'll see you at the cafe. And of course, I'm back. So let's see what you guys got there. Thank you. All right, guys. So if you got to go, see you later. If you got a question, just hold it for 1 second. And if I missed your question, you want to ask it, just get ready. I will do some quick Q&A after this. And just to let you guys know, also after the fact, you know, even if I don't respond to your questions or your chats here, I read the chats afterwards. So I do read all of these chats. So anyway, guys, thanks for the nice words there. Tracy, film noir, photo maker, after he likes that, or she, I believe, photo maker, are you guy or girl? Let us know. Nothing matters. Rod Shelley, oh yeah. All right, Rod likes it. Susan Wilson, yeah, it's great. Thank you, Susan. Thank you for Professor, awesome. Tracy, outstanding, thanks. Orcapest, you got it, thank you. Kathy, cool. Ashton, thank you. Rayel, thank you, amazing. Good to see you again, Ray. And of course, Orcapest, Kathy, Ashton, all regulars. Good to see you, Anne, thank you. Stephen enjoyed it, thanks. John Oswell, thank you. Joey, you got it. Hannah, good to see you again. Jerry Powell, another regular, as was Hannah and John. I think pretty much everybody here is. Good to see you guys again. Stuart, thank you. Good to see you. Thank you, Rolf. Rod, kind of like this stuff. Could spend hours and playing with it. Yeah, we're just kind of playing around now, just having fun. More cool ideas. You got it, Photo Maker. Dana, great tutorial. Thank you. I'm glad we were able to just kind of bring everything together and kind of do this. And thank you to Stephen for his wonderful image that he shared with us. You got it. Great tutorial. Well, thank you, Derek, Jerry, Don, Mistake. You got it. Papa, can you answer my question above regarding using Bridge ACR? Would you mind posting it again? Just because it's going to be too hard for me to scroll back, and I will answer it for you, Papa. Just cut and paste it back in. Great tutorial. Thank you, Louise. Great. Peter, Mary. Thank you. You got it. Keith, you got it. iTube, you have got it. Odgear. Thank you for sharing. You're welcome. I'm glad you're learning, Diane. There's one other thing I might try with this is I just have an idea here. Let me just select all of this. One thing I might try is a tilt shift blur, which I actually was going to do. Let me go into blur gallery and we're going to do tilt shift. Let's get this looking like toys again. Sorry for those who had to go, but I'm just going to try something here. So this is going to make it look more like toys once again. This tilt shift effect is kind of fun. Yeah, there we go. And click apply OK. And boom, there we go. I think that looks better. What do you guys think? This puts it back to looking like toys or make it look more realistic. What do you guys think about that? Thank you, Tracy. She enjoys watching my creative process. Yeah, I just get ideas, and it's just kind of like how I would be creating, in the real world when I'm doing stuff normally, One of the things, I'm just going to control click here, and I'm just going to apply a mask. I'm never done, by the way. Control click. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of black here because I want the Stormtrooper to not be quite so blurry. Control D. Yeah. That got it. Okay, I'm happy with that now. And you like the rays back? Yeah, I mean, this would be a good place where you could just drag those rays possibly above. What would happen if I did that? Let's have a look. Gives us a whole different look. I could try different blend modes. Yeah, and this is where, you just experiment. Just try different things. We could kind of go anywhere with that. Tracy likes that better. All right, cool. I believe this is with the blur. I think the blur adds a lot to it. I'll probably post this on Instagram. So if you guys aren't on Instagram, photoshopCAFE, follow me, and I'll share this stuff with you. All right, guys. So thanks for watching. Any questions? Drop your last minute questions in here. And we've gone down the rabbit hole. Yeah, we could keep going down this rabbit hole for forever. So we're gonna quit. Quit while we're ahead. In the photo of you in Camera Raw, could you? Yes, absolutely, Rael. Yep, you could definitely. All you got to do is just take that shadow highlight, take the shadow, move it all the way to the left, and I would look like a silhouette. Yes, absolutely. That's a good way of getting a silhouette. There are a lot of options, all about context or taste. Yeah, absolutely, Cornell. That's definitely what it is. And I'll be honest with you, like this color scheme is not usually the color scheme I do. I don't really work much with the reds. Nothing against them, but I prefer more like kind of blues. So usually I would move it more into blue. But I think this looks kind of cool, for this particular image. You'd move the front robot closer to the big guy. Helps with the user focus point. That's a good suggestion there, Ashton. Yeah. Could definitely do that. I believe you're talking about R2, bringing R2 a little closer. Yeah, we could definitely do that. Well, thanks, Bernie. Bernie says one of my best. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Or does that mean all my other ones suck? Andreas, good to see you, man. Expert editing gets better and better. Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. See you next week. Stay safe. Yeah, thanks, Chris. All right, guys. So, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week, 1 p.m. Pacific time, live from lockdown. So, thanks for joining us. See you guys later. Thank you.